I'm Adam Strider, and with me is Charles Myers, and we are Touching Grass, the podcast about being normal in an age of being extremely online. How you doing tonight, Charles?
Oh, I'm doing really well. I finally got to enjoy my Passover brisket. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with kosher barbecue, Adam, but we we take it very seriously.
This time of year, I'm not familiar with any type of barbecue. I'll address that in our first segment.
Yeah,
We are two cosmonauts light tonight. Justin is off turning himself into a Spider-Man villain in some lab, and Chris had some conflict involving having too many kids. One of these days, he'll figure out what causes that. So it's just us chickens tonight.
yeah. So I guess we'll lead off with a early happy Easter to you. Although you're still apparently suffering. Um,
I'm still contemplating the sacrifice of Christ and my own sins for another couple of days, so we're a little more reflective at this point.
yeah, yeah. I'm still contemplating how well the suffering of and liberation of my people, specifically through not eating bread. Uh, so I'll have an extra portion of my brisket just for you, Adam. But you've got to eat some bread for me, buddy. Let's live vicariously.
Bread is one of the few categories of things I can eat now, so we've got a good trade going here.
Yeah, yeah. See, this is why cross cultural and cross religious friendships are so important. Uh,
My second favorite Jewish carpenter, Charles.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, what can I say? Um, one of these days, man, one of these days, I'll be number one in your heart. Um, so, yeah, it's fun when you have kids and you have holidays like this because you have to explain to them over and over and over again why the bread isn't an option. Um, but I want a sandwich. Well, you can have a matzah sandwich. It's not the same. It's really not the same. At least not for them. I enjoy mine, but um,
Imagine, I mean, that's matzah's it's basically a cracker, right?
yeah, that's a good conceptual way to think about it. It's also prepared within a very strict time frame, um, and yeah, I'm more excited to talk about kosher barbecue though. Uh,
I'm sure you are. I earlier in our various group chats that we are both members of, I was discussing my grilling activities today, which were salmon and will continue to be fish for until Sunday. But tell me about some brisket, Charles.
oh yeah, yeah. So I I make a nice Passover brisket, man. But I don't use you don't use a smoker for it. You do it up in your oven. You take a roasting tray, you sear it on both sides, um, and then you braise it in a braising liquid that's wine, beef stock, uh, honey, vinegar, mustard, a few different types of tomato, um, and your own spice mix plus some veggies. And
Sound like a braise that I make pretty regularly, but I don't do it with a brisket. I do it with more of a stew cut beef. But
yeah, yeah, you go.
how does it how does it penetrate the larger piece of meat? I mean, is it
Well,
a
see,
similar consistency or
that's the other part of this. So what you do is you go low and slow
okay?
until you reach the correct tenderness in your tented roasting tray. And then you remove the tray and you remove the tray, you take the meat out, and and then you pour your braised liquid and veggies and whatnot into a different container. You put both in the fridge overnight, because, well, briskets have a ton of fat at them. And you want that delicious braising liquid as part of your final product. And once all of the fat, rises and congeals at the top, and your brisket is nice and tasty and, fridged and easier to cut, you take them out, you skim all of the frozen or the congealed fat off the top of the brisket. It's much easier when it's congealed like that, than if you're trying to just skim it off while it's liquid. It's a real pain in the ass. And then you slice your brisket into pieces that are like, 3/8 of an inch, half an inch thick at most. And you put those and your braising liquid back in your roasting tray.
So you do braise at a stew cut consistency, just it's the second cook through.
Yeah, just the second.
Okay.
Yeah. So you really do get good penetration in that second reheat, which only goes for, however long it takes to get everything nice and hot. And then you serve, and it's delicious. It's nice. It's tangy. I tend to put in quite a bit of cayenne pepper because I like a little kick in my in my homemade barbecue. But I'm sure some people listening to this are just sitting at their laptop screaming, "That's not barbecue." And okay, good for you. Have fun on the smoker, I guess.
Well, there is if you ask 5 people in 4 different states across the South, what is barbecue, you'll get 9 different opinions. So just live your truth.
Yeah. It's kosher barbecue. That's the important thing.
Be Semitic if they disagree.
Oh man, yeah. And that's the other thing. For thickening the braising liquid, can't use regular flour because we're in the no fun carb zone.
So do you use what, cornstarch? Or is that not okay?
I use something that is kosher according to my rabbi.
Raises my subsequent question: is cornstarch permissible?
It's a good question.
That's usually what I use to thicken is 1-to-1 cornstarch and water.
That is a good question. And the answer to your question is it depends, Adam.
I didn't tell you to ask a lawyer.
I know, dude. You're talking about kosher for Passover to a Jew. Like, it really depends.
Well,
there's the big one, which is obviously no bread. But then some of us are, some Jewish communities and traditions have different opinions about certain grains. So,
really draws me back to, so because this is only our second episode and this hasn't come up for me yet, I'm a member of the Tolkien Society and am really a kind of an obsessive Lord of the Rings adherent. And the one of the famous lines from the Tolkien universe is "Go not to the elves for counsel, for they will tell you both yes and no."
Yeah, if you want to make something that's absolutely kosher, just like one, good luck with that. But two, potato starch. um, that's really, and I don't want to. I'm just really trying to avoid going down the rabbit hole of what is and is not kosher. Please don't make me. Um, please don't make me do this, Adam. It'll last like more than an hour and be insanely qualified. So just oh, your video froze.
All right. Well, we had a bit of a technical difficulty there. Did we miss anything in the
I just
recording pause?
no, I don't think so. I think the last part that I remember was just saying, please don't make me do an exhaustive what is and is not kosher, because we'll be here for a very long time and I won't get through it.
And then I agreed with you on the basis that this is not the Touching Brains podcast.
I didn't get that part. That's a good one. Um,
Okay, so I did say something during the technical difficulties.
yeah, you did. Okay, so I guess item number 2 on our agenda, uh, the recent arson and attempted murder of the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania for the arson, and I think they are going with attempted murder as the charge as well, because the governor and his family were sleeping in the governor's mansion.
You're going to have to take the buggy whip on this one because as another portion of my Lent doings, I'm off social media, and I actually didn't know anything about this until you brought it up.
Oh yeah. So oh, a few days ago, at around 2 in the morning, this guy decided to light the governor's mansion on fire during Passover, after, like 2 in the morning, after Governor Shapiro had just finished, hosting a Seder earlier that evening.
I'm just confounded as to what the motivation might have been.
Well, that's a good question. The person who did it seems to, based on past social media posts, fit the profile of crazy person. He used a Molotov cocktail to light the governor's mansion on fire. And very helpfully for his defense attorney, a few years ago, he posted a cross stitch of a Molotov cocktail with "Be the light you want to see in the world."
Classic, very retro.
Yeah. And then, of course, after he escaped the governor's mansion, he called 911 to say that he'd done it, and that, among other things, Governor Shapiro's stance on Israel and Palestine was why. At least that's what NBC is reporting.
This is a real head scratcher. Why do you think he did it?
I don't know, Adam. I like, frankly, he when you're done your Lenten observation of no news or that sort of media, you'll see a picture of him, and he definitely looks like a guy who used to work as a welder, which is what he is. But like, not like a normal guy who used to work as a welder, like a mentally unstable guy who used to work as a welder.
Like a guy who used to weld Panzer tanks, is what you're saying?
He didn't have the tattoos that you'd expect for that, actually.
Oh, okay.
No, he had like the world's largest beard, and he was bald. Which is why it's like obvious that he used to work as a welder, because I don't think you'd have a good
Yeah,
with one of those under the face shield.
If I had a bunch of sparks flying in my workplace on a regular basis, I'd probably be clean shaven. I mean, I am anyway because I'm incapable of growing a presentable beard, but otherwise.
Yeah. He like, and then of course in court he apparently said to the judge that it was not true that he was a crazy person. But I, based on the totality of the facts that are currently in the public domain right now, I disagree with him on that assessment. I think he is a crazy person.
Well, I mean, I'm not that kind of lawyer, but if you find yourself in a situation in a courtroom where you are asked whether you are a crazy person or not, your answer should probably be yes.
Yeah, I think that is probably his only viable defense. I am not a lawyer, but there are a lot of adverse facts here, including a confession several times on different occasions. And yeah, I'd say that's probably his best bet, Adam.
Say that's probably his only bet.
Yeah,
not that kind of lawyer, but
yeah, it's just I will say it's really, it's frustrating to see what Governor Shapiro has had to go through as a Jewish governor. For
frustrating to see. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, and I'm sure you will because you're obviously and for obvious reasons much more attuned to this than I am. But I just don't recall seeing this level and this frequency of anti-Semitic violence 20, 25 years ago. I mean, I hate to fall back on the 90s were a golden age stance, but it just seems like this is a dominance of the internet era thing.
Yeah, like when I was in college, some asshole decided to like put up like a handful of swastikas on our campus one time. But like that was, and everyone was pissed at that person. It's like why would you come here and do that, you freak, whoever you are. I don't think they were ever caught. But yeah, they've gotten a lot bolder.
Like there's only two of us here. We're not doing a "What are you reading" segment today, but pretty recently on, I don't know if you read Slow Boring, Matt Iglesias' newsletter, but a while back he had a piece out that I thought was really insightful. That was basically wondering if we have culturally lost the memory of the World War II era and have lost the post-war consensus of knowing like this is where this stuff leads.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fairly, I think that's a pretty fair comment there. That generation, there just aren't very many of them around anymore. And that's what tends to happen when you lose the last little bit of institutional memory. And it
And
bleeds.
my grandfather was a World War II veteran. He was there at the liberation of Dachau, and he died in 2013. And he was not a particularly old World War II veteran. He was in his 20s when during the war. Um, we are losing the generation that was there and saw it.
Yeah. And it's just, it's bleeding over into other areas as well. The various executive power grabs, I think, may not have been as successful if we still had more of that generation around.
Necessarily even directly tied to needing to have that generation around. It's just the cultural memory of this is why we don't do fascism is fading, unfortunately. I mean, I honestly have no faith in it on that, but apparently we have a shorter attention span than I thought.
Yeah, we have that. And just to circle back to the anti-Semitism thing, Governor Shapiro really didn't have stances that were to the right of your median Democrat on Israel and Palestine at any point, but he was the one who got singled out last year.
There might be, like, if you were to peg public opinion to like the height of the summer of 2020 and that whole kerfuffle in all of its form, like maybe Shapiro in 2024 is to the right of the median Democrat making a public stance in 2020. But even the Democrats who were making that stance in 2020 are to the right of that in 2024 because we've moved away from that.
I mean, I need you to clarify what stance specifically there.
I mean, there was in, maybe I'm being vague because it's vague in my head, but in the summer of 2020, I feel like there was just this psychosis that you couldn't articulate an opinion that was in the mainstream from 2005 to 2015 in foreign policy, in social policy, in any arena that would contradict the sociology department consensus at a upper crust private school. And it was short lived, but it's got a long tail in certain activist groups.
Okay, yeah, I can see where you're going with that. I was being a lot more kind of direct with mine, just specifically on Israel Palestine, because that's what he was catching the hell for. You, he was one of the first really high profile Democrats to publicly criticize Netanyahu after the 10/7 attacks. But that, of course, gets lost in the shuffle. He was, in terms of, he was actually to the left of Tim Walz on that specific issue. But Walz dodged a lot of the criticism. And, it really was just because Josh is,
I think a lot of it is that he was just attuned to the issue in a way that a lot of people weren't prior to
yeah.
10/7, because prior to 10/7, the median Democratic elected official isn't reading Haaretz.
I don't think the median Democratic elected official reads that now either, Adam.
Okay, let me clarify that. I don't think the median Democratic official reads Haaretz today, but I think the median Democratic official is attuned to Israel-Palestine issues in a way that they were not in 2022.
I mean, yeah, no, it's more of, I think,
Just into commenting in situations you would not have been in previous years.
yeah, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's interesting.
Interesting. So, an interesting word choice there.
um, well, it's like when somebody pops off on something they know absolutely nothing about, and the stakes are like pretty low.
If
They
somebody
start a
like
podcast, right? That's what we do.
right. I mean, I
Three people
I'm a
listen to
small
it.
I'm a small town city councilman. I have no reason to take a position on Israel Palestine. And if some newspaper reporter cornered me and demanded I take a position on something, it would probably be pretty uninformed, and I would take the safest position possible.
I don't think there's a particularly safe position on that issue, Adam.
Well, there isn't, but in the spirit of Thomas Aquinas, all things in gradations.
Yeah. So I guess let's move on to the tush push ban. It's a much safer topic. It's only really polarizing among NFL owners.
I mean, abrupt subject change, but
Yeah.
appropriate subject change.
Well, we're trying to get through this in an hour, so
Good call.
okay.
Now, I may have, I will open on this. I know you have a much more educated uh, take on this than I do, but I am very much in favor of banning the tush push. I am a huge supporter of banning the tush push. The tush push should not be allowed to exist as a play in the NFL unless and until the Las Vegas Raiders have an offensive line that is capable of executing the tush push. And if you are not, if if you're afraid to take a position in which you are a hypocrite and openly admit to being a hypocrite, then you're a coward. And I am not a coward. And the reason that I am against the tush push is that the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line is not capable of executing it, and I want it banned until they are, and then I want it brought back when they are capable of it.
Yeah.
Charles, your turn.
Yeah, that's a super reasonable take. It's shared by a majority of the people who hate the tush push. And all I have to say is let's just prohibit Patrick Mahomes from throwing the football beyond the line of scrimmage. I will I will like I will accept a tush push ban if we can also ban the forward pass for certain teams.
I believe that Patrick Mahomes should have to play with stickum on his gloves and a couple of lead weights in his shoes.
No,
I'm
he
a,
can throw the ball backwards. That's fine. He just can't. He just can't make forward passes anymore. That's
no,
that.
I think he should have to hold on to the ball indefinitely. He should have to sit back in the pocket and wait until Max Crosby gets to his location.
I understand where you're going with this. But I think a reasonable compromise is just prohibiting the forward pass for certain players.
It's a major concession on my part, but I could be convinced.
Yeah. Joking aside, the arguments against the tush push are really bad, like really, really bad. So the first argument is there's an injury risk because of the position of the players.
Is there? I mean, what's the evidence?
Well, that's the thing. The NFL did some modeling of it, and they say there's an injury risk, but there haven't been any injuries unless you count the one where the player from the Chiefs decided to lay down sideways on the ground in an attempt to stop it. I don't know if that's a tush push related injury though, so much as that's like a being really, really dumb.
It is, I mean, if there isn't evidence that there's an injury risk that is higher than the ordinary injury risk involved in playing football, then I don't know that that's an argument.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm less convinced by the injury risk argument, aside from the distinct lack of actual injuries, because it's they've only run the play like a few hundred times. Maybe they need to run it 1,000 times before the first serious injury happens. Like I get it. Like not that's why it took so long for them to ban the kickoff. The ban the old version of the kickoff. The issue that I have
think
though
that
is like the body position that you're in for a QB sneak is fundamentally the same as the body position you're in for the tush push, because it's a fucking QB sneak. Pardon my language. I'm from Philadelphia. We say things differently there, where I grew up.
now you're doing like a Philadelphia version of the New York City bodega thing where you pretend like nowhere else has 7-Elevens. Everywhere else swears too.
I understand that, but we swear more by a lot. And moving out to the Midwest, man, let me tell you, when I talk like I'm where I grew up out here, people give me looks at them. They give me looks. But yeah, I mean, like if this were really an issue, we probably would have seen
At least one injury.
Yeah, but also we would have seen the injury risk modeling play out on the QB sneak, which is identical in terms of the body position for all of the players that they're concerned about getting injured. And the reality is, like, we haven't seen that. And we're not talking about banning the QB sneak. We're talking about banning the tush push. And we're talking about banning the tush push because the Green Bay Packers lost to the Eagles twice this year. And they got real mad and they got up in their feelings and they proposed a rule change, which was actually very bad. Like it was poorly drafted. It was one of those rules changes where if they passed it, it actually wouldn't have banned the tush push the way the Eagles did it, because it said immediately pushing the QB, but the Eagles actually wait until he makes contact with the line before giving him the good old brotherly shove. So, so what does immediately really mean? And they didn't. The rules change was just terrible. And they tabled it. Roger Goodell is going to bring it back. Jerry Jones wants to ban it. Like, I can see the writing on the wall here, but every single time a league has banned like a play that one team does really well, it has like historically always looked really bad for that league, and they've inevitably reversed themselves on it. And this is no different. It really isn't. It's just a group of people who are really deeply upset that Philadelphia has at least 2 Hall of Famers on its offensive line at any given time. And, top 5 for every other position on the line too.
Have the Eagles just like tried having a worse offensive line if they want to be allowed to do the tush push?
Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like if you look at the line that we had last year, who was our worst starter? And how good were they in relation to every other person at that position in the league?
Can't remember his name.
Sorry, what was that? You cut out for the first little bit there.
You said I think one of your guards was league average. I can't remember his name, but it's the problem is I can't remember the other one's name either. But one of your guards is really good, and the other one's like league average.
The really good one was Mekhi Becton, who was on a prove-it deal. But yeah, like it wasn't. now. Like there wasn't a weak spot in the line. And I'm really sad to see Becton go, but like I understand him
Sad to
needing to
I'm really
take.
sad to see him go somewhere other than Las Vegas because I know they were trying to get him, but
Yeah, you know he's I'm just really happy for him. Like honestly, like I'd hoped the Eagles were going to find a way to pay him, but
yeah, well, you can't find a way to pay everybody, and you got a lot of people to pay.
yeah, yeah. I know. I'd really hope they'd find a way to pay him though. He was just an absolute class act, and you know he was just fun to cheer for. Like he was really like on a personal athlete level. You wanted to see that guy succeed.
I feel about analogous offensive linemen on the Raiders. I feel like, um, oh god, I'm gonna blank on his name now, and this is gonna be really embarrassing. Swing tackle, 7th round pick 2 years ago.
I don't know your offensive line at all, man.
Okay, I'm gonna Google it, and you're gonna cut this part where I didn't remember his name. Thayer Munford.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, really want that guy to do well. Just stand-up guy. He's really personable in every interview. Absolute great find in the draft. Picked in the back half of the 7th round. Turns out to be a starter for most of 2 years. Just great guy. I mean, he kind of sort of lost his starting job this year because DJ Glaze turned out to be a great pick, but can't can't fault Thayer Munford as a person. He's a great dude, and I want him to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. Like, and it's just nice to have those guys on your team. And the Eagles, they really, as an organization, they've done a good job finding people like that to play. Like it's just I'm spoiled as a fan and I acknowledge it. But I suffered through the terrible seasons that they had as a kid. So, I've earned this.
In one aspect, I'm really suffering as a guy who picked the Raiders as my team in 1996. I've gotten to see, like, I haven't seen a playoff game or playoff win since I was in middle school. But on the other hand, my entire adult life, we've always been a team that is just rich in personalities, even when those personalities are crazy people like Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
But
so you've at least been entertained, is what I'm hearing.
by like success on the field,
Yeah, yeah, it's well, you've had a couple of you. I know you've had the one Super Bowl appearance. I can't remember. Did you have another?
well, only one during my lifetime. Now the Raiders were pretty dominant in the early '90s. They never made it to the Super Bowl, but they were a perennial playoff team. But I was also like 2 years old and couldn't appreciate it. But I was in middle school for the Rich Gannon era, and that kind of spoiled me to an extent. And then for the next 20 years, I've been chasing that high, so to speak.
Yeah, that's fair. Uh,
Sorry, my wife just threw a cat in the room and then closed the door.
oh, uh, my wife just opened the door to let our dog out. So,
And she just threw another cat in the room and closed the door.
oh, well, if you call them up, they can join us for recording.
See,
Yeah, the tush push though, that really just I get why like the teams that can't execute it want it banned. Um, because it sucks to watch another team do this thing that's new and innovative and allowed within the rules uh better than you can in a way that you like literally can't stop. You know, that's and I understand that's frustrating and that it's like upsetting for people to be like, oh well, you know, it's 4th and 1, so the Eagles are running this play uh that's just gonna go for 1.7 yards every time. Uh you know,
were you aware of an occasion when the tush push lost yards?
yes, the Packers ran the tush push and lost yards with it when their quarterback fumbled the ball.
You aware of a time when the Eagles lost yards running the tush push?
I am aware of a time they failed to gain them.
Okay.
But
So it's not an unstoppable play then. Even if you have an offensive line the caliber that the Eagles do.
yeah, you know, it's like a 90 it's like a 90% success rate.
Cross-examining you there, but it was to the benefit of your position.
I know. Um and you know, it's like it's functionally unstoppable because like
Mm.
the the thing is like if you get like 3rd and 1, the obvious answer is you run the tush push, and then if you somehow don't get the 1 yard on that one, uh you just run it again and you get the 1 yard on that play. Unless you're the Buffalo Bills and you don't know how to execute the tush push properly, and then your coach is just like, "Oh yeah, we should totally ban this play that we run." And then you ask him the follow-up question of, "Well, are you going to stop running that play in the event that it's not banned?"
Justice will be if now the Mekhi Bectonless offensive line isn't as good as it used to be in years past, and some other team does it better than the Eagles, and then your team argues that it should be.
Well, see, that's actually the thing. It really is like the offensive line as a unit.
Mm.
If you go back and look at our QB sneak numbers from the Carson Wentz era, we were still in like 80% land for converting QB sneaks. So it really is just, do you have an amazing offensive line? If yes, proceed to step 2, run the tush push on every short yardage situation.
In the 2015 to 2017 era, the Raiders used to have the notorious best offensive line in the league, which they used to call car insurance because Derek Carr was the starting quarterback at the time. I'm really upset that we didn't employ it at that point in time. Granted, that team didn't have much else going for it, which is why they continued to not be well. No, I take that back because 2016 they did make the playoffs, but
Well,
other than that,
2016, we still had the assisting the runner prohibition.
well, okay.
So car insurance couldn't have run it. But you know, now of course we can. And I think the league is just really poorly served by having a debate over banning the play. Fans enjoy it. Like everybody
Fans enjoy it.
Well, I think it's not just Eagles fans who enjoy it. Like it's fun to watch. Like, why do we watch football? We want to see people like duke it out, right? Like we want to see a good, strong physical contest. And you know,
To clarify, my soliloquy at the start of this section was tongue in cheek. I do not support banning the tush push
yeah.
unless it actually would explicitly benefit the Raiders, in which case I do, because I'm not afraid to be a hypocrite. But continue.
Well, hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays virtue. Um, but you know, it's football at its purest. Like it's old school football, and you know that's really what I find confusing about this whole thing. Like they tried to ban the forward pass for the same reason. Oh, it's not football; it's the whole game.
Half the shit that made the Raiders dominant in the 70s is banned today. So I don't know how you take a position that you think we should return to a more physical era of football and then are like, oh, we need to ban this specific play that's because it's too physical.
Yeah, that's part of it. And then it's like great, like, you know, we need to take player safety seriously too. No one's saying we don't, but like if we need to take player safety seriously and that's why we're banning the tush push, great, ban the QB sneak as well. Same line position.
Needs to be some evidence that it's particularly dangerous in the scope of the game of football, because the game of football is itself a dangerous sport.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody who follows this game wants the whole sport banned.
You know, I'm pretty sure there's like that one person who unironically loves Sarcastable from South Park.
Well, I mean, okay. Okay, well, I think we've beat this horse to death.
Yeah, and then pushed Jalen Hurts over its grave several times.
So, what I believe is the last item on our agenda tonight. We earlier talked about grilling and braising and other preparations of meat. In the spirit of Hank Hill, how do we feel about grilling with propane and grilling with charcoal? Now that we're getting some grilling weather.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Getting some grilling weather. It's never not grilling weather in Wisconsin, Adam. Uh, is there snow on the ground? Great. Let's fire up the Weber Kettle charcoal grill. Let's do this.
We had some hail that gave some car insurance adjusters a conniption, so that was some not grilling weather.
Uh, I mean, only when the hail is coming down. When there's still hail on the ground, but it's passed over, that's fine. Um, yeah, I'm team charcoal. By the way, I do not like propane grilling.
I sort of agree with you. From a taste perspective, meat prepared on a charcoal grill tastes better than meat prepared on a propane grill, and I don't disagree with you. But propane grilling is still a superior cooking method to most other cooking methods, and it is, from a time perspective, from a convenience perspective, easier than charcoal grilling. Now, if I was a gentleman of leisure who didn't have to work for a living and had a Victorian aristocrat level of free time, yeah, every meal I make myself is going to be on a charcoal grill. I am not that fortunate. So, a lot of meals that I cook that I would prefer were cooked over charcoal are cooked on my electric stove in my kitchen, and they would taste better if they were made on a propane grill. Now, if I had a much bigger deck, I would own both a charcoal grill and a propane grill. And I would use my propane grill on nights when I get home from work a little late. But I have a very small deck attached to my house. So on nights when I don't have time to fire up the charcoal grill, I cook on my stove. And I would rather be cooking on a propane grill than on my stove. So that is my half-hearted defense of propane. Attack it if you will.
Yeah, you know, I get it. I don't think the time constraint is really all you're making it out to be. But that's also because I'm one of those crazy people who plans out all of the steps for what I'm cooking at any given time. So there's a way to there is a way to get your charcoal ready and up by the time all of your other steps are done. But I understand that like not everyone is that neurotic, and
There is, but the cleanup is much more intensive.
Yeah, it is. I also do my dishes by hand though, so like
Not unless it's a dish that is like a pot or pan that is very big and is gonna be annoying to put in the dishwasher. Those are the only things I wash by hand.
yeah. So, I think we're just different people on that. But let me tell you, last year about this time, we had a massive straight line windstorm come through, and my house was without power for 4 days, Adam. Um, so on day two, I opened up my cooler that was filled with ice and the various things that I needed to save, and I took out some salmon and some absolutely wonderful mustard, and I slow smoked on my charcoal grill that salmon for about an hour. And
Right now, dealing with a not identical but similarly inconveniencing situation where I had a plumbing disaster that poured sewage through the drywall into my kitchen, and my homeowner's insurance company and their contracted what do you call them? I don't want to say contracted contractors, but you know what I mean.
subcontractor.
Yeah, they were very prompt about tearing out my kitchen, but have not been very prompt about reinstalling a new kitchen. So I have been without a kitchen for about a month at this point.
Oof. Yeah. You got me beat there.
So I have been. I have a little sink in my basement that I around which I set up a little kind of ad hoc makeshift kitchenette with a microwave and a toaster and a coffee maker, but been struggling a little bit. And it would have been really convenient if I had a propane grill.
Yeah, I get it. Like charcoal would be a little bit much every night. Um, but I think, um, yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick with charcoal is just so far superior in every way that if I'm grilling, I'm like if I'm making the decision to grill and not dealing with my grill as my stove because my actual stove is non-functional uh due to active insurance contractor, I'm choosing charcoal.
I have had to get real creative with my Instant Pot and my air fryer, and I have come up with recipes that never would have occurred to me in ordinary times and frankly have horrified me at times. But I've got to eat and I can't afford to eat out every night. So
Well, Binging with Babish just made a video of how to make lobster thermidor in a microwave.
I I'd never forgive myself.
um, you should do it, Adam. You should report back. and see how it goes. And you can't see this, but my dog has decided that now is the time to get attention from me. So she is being very needy just off camera.
Work early and make my lobster on my charcoal grill before I will put it in the microwave.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that it can be done.
You have horrified me with this information, and I'm going to do my best to forget about
it. He claims that the texture is actually good, as is the taste.
Well, I'm never going to find out if he's right or not. So
that's valid. I actually hate lobster. So
oh, good Lord, what's wrong with
you? I don't like lobster, Adam. I don't like it cooked in any way, shape, or form. I've tried it many different ways, but I think just to circle back, I don't think I could even like it if it were prepared on a charcoal grill. What did you say?
I knew you were a Philistine in some respects. I'm glad you are adding another category to the list.
Yes, I can live with that. That's okay. Because at the end of the day, I'm right about grilling. Your defense of the propane grill is basically I would like a stove that is outdoors.
Utilitarian defense of the propane grill.
Yeah. You it's like I would like if the propane grill is I would like a gas stove that is outdoors, then okay. I can absolutely get behind natural gas as a cooking medium.
Whole different discussion, but I do not like gas stoves.
Oh, we're having that one when Chris is here.
Stay tuned, guys. We're going to have this argument in the future where maybe Chris comes and kills me.
Yeah, you're going to take his gas stove from his cold dead hands.
Well, I don't want to take his gas stove as long as he doesn't put one in my house.
See, that's why you're different than the state of New York, apparently. But yeah, I mean, if your defense of a propane grill is I would like a gas stove that is outside, that's fine. But don't call it grilling.
Sounds like we can agree on that point.
Yeah. You should really try, because you still have a couple more days of Lenten suffering. You should try smoking salmon on a charcoal grill outside.
Today, I have in the past.
Yeah, it's great. Like I let it sit. I used a horseradish mustard, and the way it played with the smoke from the charcoal was just
I generally piggyback that on grilling something else, where I'll make the primary grilling item while the grill's still really hot, and then once it cools down a little bit, I'll throw my salmon or trout or what have you that I want to smoke up on the top rack, close it, and leave it there for an hour or two.
Yeah, I have to relocate my laptop because I'm apparently down to 7% battery.
You were not prepared to record a podcast, Charles.
No, I was fully I was fully prepared with a full battery, but it is an old laptop, Adam. So I'm just going to stop my video and we're going to upload the audio only from this episode. Um, okay, so is there anything else that you would like to discuss?
You know what? We discussed this being a shorter than average episode, and it turns out it's more of an average episode. So,
By the time Justin's done cutting this down, it's going to be probably about 40 minutes, maybe. There are a lot of cuts here.
we are going to require more cuts than the last episode did.
All right. So do you want to do the outro?
All right. Well, for Adam Strider and for Charles Myers, this has been Touching Grass. Go do something normal. Until next time.
All right.